Hey, welcome to the One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute with your host, the alchemist of Indiana's Black Forest, Alan Bishop. Hey, this channel is all about home distilling and legal distilling. If you've got questions, reach out to us in the comments below, social media, or via bishopshomegrown@gmail.com. And don't forget to check out thealchemistcabinet.com. Hey, what's up guys? Back in the tiny bedroom studio, once again answering your questions about the art of distillation, whether it be home distilling and or potentially professional distilling. I hope you guys liked the recent process video with the coffee fermentation and the comparison of the Ozark Stillworks Mr. Fusion and the Ozark Stillworks Shocker, as well as that 13 Stills crossover Black Forest Edition 5-gallon boiler, guys. Listen, Wayne Herbert and Jason Wade Harrell, Ozark Stillworks, as well as 13 Stills. Great guys, great builders. I cannot recommend either of them enough. They are both fantastic. So please, if you're looking at getting into, a new still or some expansion equipment for your still, give them, give them a ring, guys, for sure. Call them up, find them, and do your thing. As always, thank you guys for supporting this channel. It's grown to be something that I never expected it would become. The growth is slow, but it's steady, and I'm drawing the types of people that I was hoping that I would draw, given my style of distillation and trying to be a little bit more advanced with distillation. I'm going to do some process videos here. I think I mentioned not too long ago that I do have cataract surgery coming up. So sometime around the middle of March, towards the end of March, I may slow down on videos just a little bit, but don't worry, they'll pick back up. We're getting into the spring fermentation season, which means lots of wild yeast stuff going on outside and other operations that we'll be playing around with this year. So some questions that I had missed for a while, I think, here. One of them was about ideal fermentation temperatures. I actually had recorded a video about this at one point in time, and because I am a little goofy sometimes, I accidentally deleted it. So talking about ideal fermentation temperatures, there's so many variables that kind of come into play with that. The first variable is, what's your base? Are you messing with, are you doing rum? Are you doing fruit brandies? Are you doing whiskeys? And what yeast are you wanting to use? So I'll just run over a couple things in my mind that come to light. So let's say sugar shine, 1 pound of sugar, 1 pound of grain per gallon, right? Usually Fleischmann's bread yeast or Red Star baking yeast, 1 gram per gallon of yeast. Those for me tend to do best around that 75-degree range if I can hold them there. When it comes to brandies, I tend to like to use obviously brandy yeasts, and I like to keep those when I can at around 67 degrees. I don't always have the capability of doing that, but when I can, I do. And I tend to try to hold those in a cellar or somewhere like that where I can keep that temperature as close as possible to 65 to 67 degrees. With rums and whiskeys for me, and I don't mess with rum much at all, it kind of depends on what I'm playing with. Anywhere from 75 degrees up to, say, 85, 90 degrees at work, my ideal fermentation temperature for the yeast that we propagate ourselves, as well as the various brandy yeast that we use for whiskey at work, I tend to hold temperature at about 85 degrees. There are exceptions to that rule. So, for example, Kveik yeast, it's an old Norwegian farmhouse style yeast. It's actually a variety of yeasts that are adapted to high temperature fermentation. They create unique esters at those high temperature ranges. So sometimes on those, I'll go 100, maybe 105, and those are super fast fermentations. The agave stuff I've been playing around with, I've been trying to hold that somewhere around 80, 85 as well. And just to be honest with you, excuse me, that is mostly Ven 13 or EC 1118, as well as some firm fast fruit, which is actually a turbo, but it's a turbo without urea, so you don't get the off flavors. And I've been really, really impressed with that product. So hopefully that sort of covers that topic. Now the next question here was basically a little bit of an off-topic question, but when you research the distillation history of your area and county, both legal and illegal, what resources and or government entities did you reach out to for finding information relating to your area and county? And this is in research to some of the documentary stuff that we've done, as well as the alchemistcabinet.wordpress.com. If you guys aren't familiar with that blog, that's my blog where I did a lot of research on the distilling history of the Black Forest region of southern Indiana. As far as I know, I'm the only southern Indiana distilling historian that there is out there. I don't know of any others. If they do exist, again, that's my dog, not a ghost, and my daughter's also running around somewhere back there. Anyways, moving forward. I've always been interested in history, but it's always been more or less history at our national level, and I've recently become more interested in the history at my local level. At the county level, I've contacted the genealogy department of the library, the Historical Society, the Treasurer's Office, and the Recorder's Office, but no place has any records of any legal distillation business in my county before or after Prohibition, which could possibly be the case. However, I know there was for sure illegal distillation taking place in my area during Prohibition, but searching for possible evidence in newspaper articles from that time is a very time-consuming and daunting process, as I'm sure you know. Plus, it probably was a very taboo topic in my county during the Prohibition period, so any info, arrest, bust, etc. regarding illegal distillation may have purposely been omitted from making it to the newspapers out of respect for the family name. The county we live in, at least the southern half where we live, is 90+% German Catholic. Was probably 100% German Catholic during Prohibition, so we really like our alcohol, but at the same time, we like the appearance of law and order. Sorry about the long text, just curious if you had any potential research ideas. So for me, it literally came from everywhere. It came, first of all, from the local historical societies. I'm lucky to have here in Washington County, Indiana, one of the best historical societies in the state of Indiana, as far as I'm concerned, that started very early on in our county's history, including a couple of fantastic books, the history of Washington, Lawrence, and Orange County, Indiana's, as well as the Warder Stevens History of Washington County, Indiana, and Horace Heffern's Pioneer Pickings. Those gave me a lot of the early distilling, legal distilling stuff. A lot of stuff, though, I also picked up from various tax records I found through the Indiana Historical Society or from various other historical societies in the surrounding counties. Once I started researching it, putting the word out there, I was also doing reenactments and things of that nature, so stories started to come out of the woodwork. People would come up to me and talk to me and say, well, do you know that such and such distilled? Here was the distillery location. And then I'd go back and research that to whatever depths I possibly could, find whatever evidence that I possibly could at that time for distillation with that person. As time goes on, it just snowballs and snowballs and snowballs and becomes a bigger and bigger and bigger thing. And I can find more or less tax records or oral histories and or family histories or obituaries. Now, the newspapers thing, newspapers.com, I think it is. I joined that. That was very much worthwhile because you could actually search keywords through old newspaper articles, and that gave me a bevy of information that was off limits to me prior to that. So it's really a matter of whatever resources you can get a hold of. Sometimes you'll find tax records if it's a legal distillery. We do have tax records, for example, of the Daisy Spring Mill Distillery at Spring Mill State Park. Although they are not complete records, there are some records from certain years. I know that was a little off topic from general distillation stuff, but this will be for some of you guys that want to get into finding out your local distillation history. But we're going to wrap this video up. As always, guys, thank you for supporting us. Please go check out thealchemistcabinet.com. Head over to the Warehouse 1 where you can still order The Alchemist Cabinet Volume 1 philosophy book. It is in print. We do have copies we will still autograph here. There are copies on Amazon as well. I do not currently have the link in front of me, but if you go to my Facebook, you'll be able to find that as well. Or in the comments below, or not the comments, but the descriptor below this video. I usually have a link in there for it. Volume 2 is coming very shortly. It's about to go to print as we speak. It's not as long, but it's much more technically advanced. There's a lot more recipe stuff in there, botanical stuff, citrus fermentations, all that kind of stuff that we've talked about on this channel in the past, highline distillations, etc. And volume 3, which is going to be tackling distilling alchemy from a more spiritual point of view, and that one won't be for everybody for sure, but it ties directly into our If You Have Ghosts, You Have Everything podcast. All right, guys, as always, if you have questions, bishopshomegrown@gmail.com, and or the social media and or the comments below on YouTube. And I do have another podcast coming up before too long with Jesse from Still It, and I'm really looking forward to that. I've got some samples of his stuff, including the absinthe that he did on the collaboration with me, that I'm really looking forward to getting into. Later, guys.